Well, I try and have everybody who's interesting on, and you definitely are among the most interesting with your necklace and your sunglasses there, putting off a strong visual aesthetic, really branding yourself in a particular way.
For me, part of it's the fact that I dress the way I write my characters. So if I'm wearing one of these, there's usually someone with a Hawaiian shirt running around somewhere in the space.
Hunter S. Thompson, I get it.
They, I've been listening to a lot of the Gonzo tapes, man. That is some wicked, wicked stuff. But also, my funniest story about that too is at when I was up at college still, I'd be going around in the denim, in the leather, with the cowboy boots and an actual bullet belt with genuine casings, 223. And I was treated like I was wearing a three-piece suit and a top hat to match. It was hysterical.
Well, as you should be.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I was asked, "Is that real?" I'd I'd be able to leave the school. Just pack up, be like, "Later." It was fun times, though. It was fun times.
Right on. Well, why don't you we start it here and tell our guests a little bit about yourself and kind of where you come from and how you got into the space that you're in.
All right, so I am from the wonderful land of grass and more grass that is upstate New York. I'm from around the Cooperstown area. And I'm a filmmaker, writer, and composer. The first love was music because I had started arranging and transcribing by ear compositions around middle school. So, like, probably 12, 13 or so. And slowly I kind of developed my own musical voice alongside that. But while I was doing that, I was always writing stories. I was always making these dinky little short films where I was messing around with like iMovie, and for a time was literally filming with the webcam off of my school provided laptop. So I'm sitting there putting this laptop in positions it ought not to be in from a peer-to-peer like one-to-one laptop program, and filming all of these ridiculous abstract things and really just having a ball, really just experimenting. And ultimately what happened was I went off to college in 2019. I got one semester in before everything went pear-shaped. And after 2 years of just banging my head against the wall in a kind of position where everything I wanted to do, I wasn't able to, because it was almost like I didn't even need to be there. Like, I was there because I wanted to use the resources, but I didn't have access to the resources after, COVID shut everything down. And it ate at me. It ate at me as a creative. It just ate at me on like a personal mental level. And it was towards the end of 2021 that it all finally snapped. And I went back and revisited a concept I had for something. I'd sat down and just jammed out a couple pages of world building late in high school. I've the original Bible, which is since lost to time, and suddenly things started clicking over the summer. And the more and more I thought about it, by the end of August, I was writing stories for what would become 365 Infantry, which is my digital Substack. It's a quarterly pulp magazine set in this wild science fiction universe that's basically far, far into the future, after MAD has claimed everything except the very, very few to reemerge. There's this congealing of essentially the last hub of urban civilization, and of all places, what used to be Phoenix in the southwest of the United States. And over the course of some rapid advancement, they wind up with a citywide computer network that runs the whole show for them. Essentially the first true post-scarcity society. Stop me if you've heard this before. And plot twist, it gains sentience, but because it is designed to maintain stasis and to perfect all that is not imperfect, it runs with this to a gradually increasing extremity that ultimately leads to everyone's favorite: get rid of the carbon-based life forms. They're imperfect beings, as you do. The twist of it is, though, it's all starring wolves, and the forces fighting against this misguided evil, for lack of a better word, is this resistance force based in the desert that wars almost exclusively with souped up hot rods and motorcycles, armed to the gills with lasers, and just a total power fantasy madland that's Blade Runner, Mad Max, and Heavy Metal Magazine all rolled into one. And that gave me so much life when I needed it the most. And like everything took off. I was writing more music. My film work became stronger. My voice, my creative, my drive went through the goddamn roof. And by the end of it, I had built something that I could write on almost forever if I didn't know how it ends. And that leads me to where I am right now, which is I am constantly pushing what I can do with the series, but also pushing what I can do as a fantasist, as a writer of speculative fiction, as a composer who works on scoring films as they come. In fact, I just finished writing music for one of my friends over in Sweden for a short film he did on the down low. And also, as always, working on screenplays and working on developing, I guess I'd call them audiovisual projects, because not all of them might qualify for film status. But it's just kind of like a trigger, really. It was 365 was what set off everything else. And I'm forever grateful that it has, because it's also starting to find an audience.
What does the 365 part mean, out of curiosity? I don't know. I've never like I've read through this stuff a little bit here and there. I've never quite put together the importance of that.
It is a combination of a real in-world explanation and a combination of a freaky story of happenstance. The in-world explanation is this. In an address from the general, the head of the force at the time the main storyline is taking place, Adam Knox, is holding an address on the anniversary of a massive battle that took place, I think, a decade prior. And he talks of one of the soldiers who made the final blow, which happened to be his own wife at the time, who ultimately gave her life on the field of battle. And what happens is, while they are... she had restored a genuine 60s Porsche 356. But the thing you had noticed is that she had actually gotten the numbers backwards. The numbers ran 365. And they fall madly in love after he escapes his original work as a police officer for Haven, the name of the city out of what once was Phoenix. Falls madly in love with her, and they kind of pal around, him with his Hemi-Cuda and her with her Porsche 365. And ultimately what happens is, after the battle, after she ultimately finally has to throw herself at the beast to get it to die, the beast being these giant hovering tanks that are like a fever dream out of an old Jerry Anderson, like the whole Super Mario Nation Thunderbirds puppet thing. Like a fever dream out of that kind of universe. And she makes the ultimate sacrifice. And what he ultimately does is rechristen what was originally called the Embellishments Ascensors, which is a very wordy Latin name devised by the previous general, Leo Godred, part of his fascination with history, Ambiorix being I believe he was a hero. Oh my gosh. That's getting into a whole different tangent, so I'm going to put it simply. He renamed the Force both in honor of someone who had basically clinched a massive victory in their long ongoing campaign against this computer network known as ACEs, and also as kind of testament to this seemingly never-ending fight. 365 days in a year, a nonstop fight. That's the in-world explanation. It's a dual meaning of the nonstop fight for freedom and the kind of last remembrance he could afford his late wife. The real world thing that cemented this is a bizarre story. Okay, so I'm a fan of Chinese food. Totally change of gears here. I'm a fan of Chinese food. And I at school, whenever I felt like, hey, I'm sick of the food at the dining halls. They deliver to the door. The Chinese place delivers to the door. One night, I think it was in October, a few months into pre-production, after I'd sort of cemented an address from the general, although I wasn't set on publishing it just yet, I'd gotten my usual order. I'm a wonton soup man, got a little thing of crab rangoons. And after I'm done eating everything, I get down to the fortune cookie. And I will send you the photo. I'll send you the photo over Discord for photographic evidence. I crack open the fortune cookie, and it reads as follows. I can do it from memory. There are 356 days in a year. May all 365 of your dreams come true. The file name is an omen.jpg. And that was kind of what cemented me saying, if I'm being told this, and I'm not told many good things by fortune cookies, not that I've been told bad fortunes, just that it's all the generic, solipsisms and whatnot. It's just like, wow, that's a new one.
Okay.
Factory typo or fake.